Welcome to selfdiscoveryradio.com, where the orchard of wisdom is just ready for picking. We celebrate your why, the journey that you've taken that inspires someone else. We support your services, we support your story. Come and be our guest, become a host, be an author with us. Come and see what we've got. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to Ignite Your Heart and Soul. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Pam Del Franco. Well, we're going to be talking again about that Me Too movement and how you empower your love in this movement. We talk a lot about this movement because it's a shift. It's a time of a different visualization of communication, a different awareness, stepping into our own empowered love, our own beautiful love that's within, and being vibrational and inviting what we want out. But I know there's a lot of dialogue that is missing at the present moment, and people just don't know how to connect to that. If you truly want to bring love into your life, it's first got to be within you. And this is what Pam does. She helps you find that love within yourself. She says it's very important in this movement and to actually understand why it is happening, why it needs to happen. She uses a metaphor of a glass of water with a layer of mud at the bottom of it. If you're just looking at the top, it's easy to miss all the dirt at the bottom. But when you start to stir it up, it all mixes and muddles together, and it looks like you've never had clear water or ever have it again. So with time, the sediment settles back down to the bottom. And although it doesn't actually leave the glass as it often enough disturbance to acknowledge that it's there. So disturbance, it's a good thing to have disturbance, and it's something that we need to actually embrace, because when we do, we actually understand its progress and it's moving in the right direction. Isn't that right, Pam? Welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sarah, for having me. Yeah, that's right. There's sometimes people will want to sort of move through their love life thinking that everything has to be fine or everything has to not be fine. But if there's a disturbance there, they want to put it outward. They want to say, I'm disturbed because of this other person's behavior, or I'm disturbed because of something outside of themselves. But the inner disturbance that happens is really the best one, because that's the one that's going to get you to really look at what your thoughts and ideas and concepts are around love specifically in a relationship.
Yeah. I like when we get disturbance or redirects or those tap on the shoulders, because we're inclined to, as human beings, be on automatic. And, we're just going down the road, not even paying attention to what's happening around us. And it then becomes those disturbances that becomes our redirect and makes us look at life and our lives specifically from the inside out. And everybody needs to do that check at some point in their life, don't they? We have to stop and reconnect. Us just doing a show on the law of attraction and the words that we use, and we don't realize how automatic certain dialogue is there. We've used it for so long, we're not even aware of it anymore, but we don't realize what we're saying to ourselves. So that disturbance is a really good check on, what am I really saying to me?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very good check. It's a self-check, and it's also a self-awareness of, wait a second, am I actually saying this type of thing to myself? Like, am I really saying that I'm not lovable through my actions and through my behaviors, even though outwardly my voice is saying I deserve to be treated better? And if I'm in a relationship, I might be saying that you need to treat me better. In the meantime, my actions and behaviors are showing that I'm not feeling deserving of more respect and better treatment.
You're going to get treated what you put out, isn't it? So you've got to be very understanding of what you are putting out, because that's the reflection that other people are going to respond to.
And even on an energetic level,
Yeah.
because you don't need to be a light worker to pick up on somebody's energy. You
Mm-hmm.
know that when you walk into a room, you may be attracted to a person, and I'm not talking romantically,
Mm-hmm.
but you may be attracted by one and repelled by another, and that's just an intuitive sense that you have. And those are awarenesses as well, and they're eye openers. You know, you if you're attracted to somebody that's behaving poorly, that's an eye opener for you. Wait a second, am I really going to be attracted to this bad boy? I'm just using bad boy as an example. And if so, how come? Like,
Yeah.
how come I don't have more respect for myself?
Big question, and I think everybody somewhere along the line has asked that question. You know, why does this keep happening to me? You know, I may choose somebody totally different, a different religion, a different race, a different this, a different that, and you think that you've gone and done it differently this time, and then you find out same old pattern. Well,
Yeah.
it's not them. It's the fact that we are probably still stuck in the pattern, and we don't
Mhm.
realize that we're repeating it just with a new partner.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is what I did for decades, I'm
Mm-hmm.
embarrassed to say. I just, one relationship after another, even though the relationships were very important, my behavior hadn't changed. And it took the last relationship, the one that I wrote about in the Simply Women book in my chapter, it took that relationship for me to finally understand, wait a second, Pam, you know, 14 years into it, and you're still allowing all of these behaviors, and you're still allowing yourself to be treated poorly.
Yeah.
Treated poorly. And the interesting thing, too, is, Sarah, that I stepped on the spiritual enlightenment path way back, like
Yeah.
literally in 85. So it's not like I was in this relationship and then I stepped onto the path and then I figured things out. I was well into on that path. And, you know, I'm an intelligent woman, and I had done so much work. I had done all the inner child work with Louise Hay. I had done all of that work, but I was still not accepting that I deserved respect and I deserved to be treated well. I still wasn't, and it took the last relationship for me to finally get that, which
Right.
was into it.
Yeah, and you know, I'm also the spiritual being having this human existence, and my life has always been about, you know, service and helping others and
Mhm.
lifting others' spirits up. And I don't know where it came to be that it had to be everybody else and not me. You
Yeah.
know, it's if you're living in this spiritual realm and this spiritual energy, and we understand that that love and that energy comes from us that we exude out. Well, why are we not replenishing ourselves? Why are we not honoring ourselves? Instead,
Mhm.
we burn out because we're not giving ourselves that self-love. And it goes,
Yeah.
hang on,
Yeah.
how come? How come?
Yeah. Because we have, for me, I had the misconception that the more I loved
Mm-hmm.
him, and I'm just using one of my personal examples, the more I loved him, the more I would be lovable and the more spiritual I was.
Right.
Because I was starting to float off into that, you know, la la woo
Yeah.
woo place where everything is love and everything
Mm-hmm.
is peace and everything is, the more I love him, then the more I'm going to be rewarded back with his love eventually.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't happen that way. It
No.
simply plainly does not happen that way because, as you likely know, it's resonance. And
Yes.
how can I give out that type of love if I don't own it myself?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't give something that you don't have. You
Right.
know? Think you
Ah,
can.
yeah. That. Thank you for saying that, because it's, you know, we're constantly giving, 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 and then we're realizing that we haven't got anything left in us. How can we receive? You know, we can't receive if we're constantly giving. And if we're constantly giving and we're not giving back to ourselves, then we're depleting. And it's, why are we not worthy of the same love we give other people?
Yeah.
Where was this dialogue? And the thing is, it's kind of subliminal. We don't, like, as you said, you're an intelligent woman. You've been doing this a long time. We're not aware of the fact that this is what we're inviting, because I think we're too busy giving out when we're kind of unaware of what we need to receive.
Yeah, not only I was too busy giving out, but I was also too busy with the idea of
Hmm.
love. The
Yeah.
idea of love for me was what I felt in my heart, but my heart misled me because my heart was saying I love him. My intuition was telling me in a million different ways, but wait a second, you're not being treated well and you're not being loved back. And I would ignore it
Hmm.
because I said yes, but I love him. And my mind would then conjure up all of these concepts and ideas of how much more I could love him. And it was like literally a treadmill. I
Yeah.
was just, sorry, not a treadmill, you know, the mouse.
The, yes, the hamster
Yeah,
wheel.
I'll love
Yeah.
him more than he'll love me back. I'll love
Yeah.
him more than he'll love me back. And of course it doesn't happen. And once you once I got past all of that, and it was definitely a heartbreak, the biggest heartbreak that I have experienced. But once I got past it, a couple of years later, I could see that it wasn't possible. I didn't make it possible for him to love me
Hmm.
because I wasn't lovable in my eyes. In
Right.
my eyes, I just had to work hard at loving him.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think a great deal of that pattern is very much in our DNA. It's what's been expected of women since when? How long?
Yeah,
How many generations, centuries, thousands of years.
yeah,
Women are the servants, the servants that are there to serve their master.
yeah,
And this women empowerment, which we're talking about today in the movement,
yes,
isn't about women getting on their warrior outfits and, beating up the men. It's stepping into our own empowerment. And
yeah.
I think we're beginning to actually understand that DNA dialogue that's been so entrenched in us that
Hmm.
we're unaware of it. It's so many layers down. And it's only as things knock on the door that you open it up and you go, oh, where I understand now why I'm doing what I'm doing. But
Yeah,
it's got nothing to do with the intellect, is it? It is that
no, no.
DNA intellect.
Yeah, and there's I even read the book long time ago, the emotional IQ,
Hmm.
and still I didn't actually deal with it.
Yeah.
And one of the things for me for the movement now is not it's not like you said, it's not about men bashing, and
Right.
it's not about, because there's different types of relationships. So it's not about bashing your partner.
No.
It's just about allowing yourself to be empowered in a relationship,
Hmm.
so that you have equality on, let's call it an emotional level. I'm not saying that you do the dishes, you wash, he dries. I'm just saying the equality in where you both respect each other, you respect each other's space, and you respect each other's growth, and you respect each other's way of being.
Hmm.
And so that then, like in my lifetime, I would love it if we moved beyond the male and female concept and moved into humanity, just humanity.
Yes, I
Um,
agree.
like you said earlier, I grew up in the 50s and 60s, and we had Connie Francis, Stand By Your Man, and we had all those types of lyrics that were all
Yeah.
about women being submissive to men. And one of the things that I feel a little concerned about now, though, is I still see it in some music. I can still
Mm.
hear it. I still see the same lyrics. And I
Yeah.
think to myself, please, please don't, please go beyond this,
Yeah.
you know?
Why doesn't he love me? If only I did,
Yeah,
and that's not thing. I think, what we have to look at is to stop the doing and start the being. Be who you are, embrace
yeah,
yourself from the inside out on every level,
yeah,
unapologetically own it, resonate in it, be it. And when we step into that beingness, we stop doing things that don't honor our beingness.
yeah, 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 exactly. And the beingness that you're speaking of just literally gets squished. It gets
Hmm.
squished because we're trying. I'm just going to speak for myself. I was trying so hard to be what he wanted me to be. I was a chameleon in every relationship that I had. I became the chameleon that transformed to what I thought that he would want in a life partner. And so when I look back, I think, well, the poor guy, how could he actually connect with me, because I wasn't me
No.
at all.
Yeah.
And so it is that sort of chameleon being where which I unfortunately I do still see in young women in relationships, that they still want to sort of be something that they're not.
And that is so torturous, isn't it? Because
Oh gosh,
A,
yeah.
we don't feel worthy enough in our beingness. B, the actual bending into a pretzel to be what you want me to be, and then find out, well, that's not what they want you to be anyway. And it's like, well, what do you want? And bottom line is just be yourself. Allow me to love you, not an expectation of you, or not what you think I want from you. And so we can't blame men in relationships when we're constantly sending them out mixed messages. So we really need to get our own message clear first, don't we?
Yeah. And the mixed message thing is a whole different conversation in my book, because that can easily head down the wrong direction, right? As I'm sure you know, that some of your listeners might be listening, and that's a whole nother conversation, actually. But what that you might be pointing to is the mixed message within yourself.
Yes.
So I would be standing in front of him, being this person, and then there's the real me dying to be in front of him, but I wouldn't be that real me. I would be this projection of myself based on what I thought that he wanted. And so those were the mixed messages that I was sending myself. So then, of course, it does create a mixed message for him. But the biggest one was the mixed messages of myself.
Yeah. I mean, we want people to connect with this. Relationships are about connection and communication.
Yeah.
And if we cannot connect with people, and if we're not communicating, how we want to connect, then there's that mixed message of, I don't know what you want. And if we don't know what we want, if we haven't connected to our needs and who we really are, then how do we expect someone else to have a relationship with us? I think, the relationship itself is first and foremost, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because we need to get clear on who we are, and then we need to get clear on what we want in a relationship. And it doesn't mean that, we have to be perfect and everything has to be all lined up and everything has to be all organized and we have to have all our ducks in a row. But it does mean that if you connect with another person in a relationship and you're not gelling, and it's not working, you don't stay and try to make it work in the sense of, let me change the way that I am and let me change the way I behave, and then maybe that will work, which is what I did. When it wasn't working, I would shift things around and I would behave in different ways, and sometimes, of course, even dress in different ways. I left no stone unturned. Chameleon myself into what I thought that he wanted. And the thing was that I had never asked. I had never taken the time to find out what he wanted. I simply
assumed,
made the decision myself.
Yeah.
This is what he's looking for, and then tried to become that.
And then, of course, in the trying to be what he wants, you get this horrible nagging feeling that you're not enough.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to be enough if you're trying to fit into another role. Because you're not meant to be that other role. You're meant to be yourself. But so many people constantly looking out instead of in. If I was pretty enough, if I was thin enough, if I was this enough. And it's like, you are enough. You just haven't allowed yourself to express yourself from the inside out. So how did you finally go in and recognize this pattern and deem yourself worthy enough?
For me, I have a very hard head, and I take the long road and I also take the hard road.
Mm-hmm.
So it took relationship after relationship, and then this last relationship was 14 years of trying to be something that I wasn't. And it actually took him, like he would sort of have to shoo me off, like shoo, shoo. He tried to break up with me several times,
Right.
and I would shift things around and, go back and ask him to take me back, sort of thing. And then when he finally had said, that's it, I'm done, I've had enough, I didn't have a choice.
Right.
And then I had to lean on all of those decades of learnings that I had done and not applied. I had applied them in a spiritual level, and
Mm-hmm.
I had applied them in many other ways, but not when it came to being in a relationship with someone.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because I was afraid to apply those concepts, because probably part of me knew the moment I would apply them to the relationship would be over, because I would recognize that I'm being treated
Right.
really badly. And so once that happened, it crushed me.
Yeah.
It literally crushed me. And so I had nowhere else to go but rely on all of the teachings and learnings that I had done, and to recognize that it's really time now to walk the walk and talk
Yeah.
the talk.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it took a couple of years to get past the emotional heartbreak of it, and I don't feel that I've fully healed at all. But then I became more clear with myself. And then I started to step into myself more. And then I embraced all of the things that I had learned, all of the different
Yes.
spiritual concepts and the dream work and the hypnotherapy and all of those beautiful concepts, and going down to Lilydale. And I literally took all of those experiences that I had and started looking at them. Well, I shouldn't say looking at them. I started sifting through them and applying them
Yes.
to relationships.
Yeah. I think when you get to that point and it took me a long time. I was 20 years in my first relationship with my marriage, and then my last relationship, which actually was friendship, business, relationship, then just back to friendship, but we lived under one roof, and that was about a 14-year period too. And it was,
Oh,
and it was like, Mom, what are you thinking? Get out there on your own.
yeah,
But what I was learning to do was learning to be very happy and content in the relationship with myself.
yeah,
And I think the worst thing is when you feel lonely in a relationship, where you just don't feel there is the connection, you're not heard, you're not seen, you're not felt, you don't feel a part of it. But being at peace in your aloneness, I'm not lonely anymore. I really do enjoy my own company. And that's not
yeah.
being narcissistic, that's just being at peace and content with me and my own relationship. But I had to work on it. And this is the thing, we do have to work on it, don't we?
Yeah, and I know exactly what you're saying, because I am in that space as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not in a space where I say, I don't want a relationship. Of course I do, if the right relationship comes along and if I decide to put myself out there. But I, I am very comfortable on my own. So now, if a relationship comes my way, it's coming my way in a let's connect together as two whole people,
Yeah.
as opposed to me saying, well, oh gosh, let me get into another relationship and let me see if I can make him happy.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, and it's also not the opposite. It's not going to be the opposite where I have to demand that he makes me happy.
Right.
It's going to be on equal footing as far as that goes. I mean, one is always, I feel, one person who's always going to care for the other one a little bit more. And then there's other things. But I'm
Yeah.
not talking about that type of equality. I'm talking about the type of equality where you give yourself space to breathe. You give him a space to breathe, or her, and that you walk through life together.
Yes.
It
True
doesn't mean
partnership.
that I'm not a romantic, and it doesn't mean that I don't
Yeah.
want those types of things. It just means that I'm not going to
You're not being needy
myself.
for it, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to compromise. You're going to have somebody that you truly wish to partner with. And yeah, I love the Celtic runes, runes, and there's one called Gifu, I think in America they call it Gibu, and it's the cross. And I actually have a tattoo on my shoulder that my children gave me, and it's two butterflies forming the cross, and it's the partnership with my children, and they are of equal status. We come together in our wholeness to create a unity, to create a connection, and I
Yeah.
think we are realizing now it's not coming for someone to complete us, for someone to define us. It's in our wholeness of being. We bring ourselves to a relationship to complement us.
Yeah, exactly. And when you're in that type of relationship, you're not fearful if he or she has friends.
Right.
You're not fearful if they want some space.
Yes.
Or if you want space,
Mm-hmm.
your partner's not fearful. Like, oh my gosh, she wants the night to herself. What's wrong?
Mm-hmm.
There's just this beautiful ebb and flow
Mm-hmm.
of being together,
Yeah.
and not needing it in the sense of without it, I'm not complete.
Right.
There was this beautiful saying, line that I heard last night. I was watching the Selfridges, and it almost could sound like it would contradict what we're saying, but if you look at the depth of it, it doesn't. And she was saying to the partner, she said, when you leave the room and come back in, when you walk back into the room, I didn't realize that part of me had left with you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have that kind of beauty without it being the dramatic type that I'm lost without you or I'm not complete without you. But you still have, like for me, when I heard that, it was exquisite.
Yes.
Because, like you can still love exquisitely. You can still love deeply.
The anticipation of seeing someone again and realizing as they walk through the door how much they mean to you and how much they uplift you. But that doesn't mean that you're broken without them. It just means that they complement you in such a way that they bring you light. And that's what a relationship is, isn't it? It's lighting each other up.
And that's sort of every relationship. I remember 35 years ago, my sister had given me this concept because my ex and I had split up and the kids were small. And at the time, there was one fella in my life. So we sat around the dining room table, like sometime later. We sat around the dining room table and we lit a candle, one for my son, one for my daughter, one for me, and one for my ex, and then one for this fella. And I just said to them that this is the light that we have. Each one of us has this light. Now watch what happens when we come together. Then we slowly moved the candles together and it created one big light.
Right.
I feel that speaks to what you were saying earlier, that you can be this whole person and come together in similar to the concept of your cross. You come together in this full relationship, like a really full relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we will grow in humanity. That's where we will grow. And that's a little bit of a point where we can move beyond men, women, females do this, males do this. And, we both have the female and male energy within us. And I've operated a lot under the male energy because I raised my children alone. But I'm coming into the female energy a lot more now, over the last little while.
And that's what, the feminine movement is about. Back in the 60s, the feminist movement of burn your bra, all I see is, flapping boobs in the wind. They're there for a reason, the bras. And then women became very emasculated as they entered the business world. Instead of going in their femininity, they dressed like men, they became tough like men. And we missed the point, and that women's lib was purely about the right to have the same rights as the male species. It's not about taking it away from you or me trying to be you. It's just me being able to step into my own empowerment and it be acknowledged.
Yeah. And some of your listeners may be young enough that they don't realize that we didn't get to vote until the
Right.
1920s. So we literally didn't get to vote. The 60s movement for me, I wasn't part of it because I came from England and I was very young in my mind. Like I was emotionally very young, so I wasn't aware of it. But as the years and decades went by, 60s for me was just the pendulum, that's all. It had to swing way over
Yeah.
to that way.
Yeah.
So
Before
that
it
we
can
could
settle.
start swinging back, and now we're sort of a little bit like this.
Yeah.
We're not, it isn't still yet, but
But it's not extreme.
yeah. So those women there were, to me, just as important as the suffragees from the 1920s. Like there's, and what's her name, Jane Fonda.
Yeah. Gloria Gaynor and the movement of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're all in the same movement now. It's just that the younger generation have much more power through social media.
And also through other women, still Jane Fonda and other women of all ages saying no more. No more. And I've done a few shows where it's also, but what about the men? And as we said, this is not male bashing, because for men at the present moment, they, I remember once I woke up in the night and I thought, we can't blame the men. This is what they've been taught. It's up to us now to re-educate on how to treat women.
And you re-educate by demanding to be treated in a certain way.
That is the education. This is my boundary. This is my parameter. You will treat me like this, and then I will respond to you. If you don't, I won't have anything to do with you.
Yeah, but you can't force that on a younger woman. You have to get her to understand that some of her behaviors are allowing his behavior.
Yes.
And, like you said, it's not his or her fault. There's nothing to do with blame. It's to do with her creating this sense within herself that she is worthy and she matters. And, I find that making conversations like we're having, it's difficult not to sort of slip into those hashtags and some of the cliches, but, so what? But find that power within. Don't, if you start dating somebody, don't let him like have everything that he wants. Let him chase you, or
wooing. I call it the wooing before screwing.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's we did a show on.
It is needed.
It is. Yes, because we're giving too much away, and what we're seeing with the younger people right now is just become so flippant on sex. And I'm a 70s chick. Free love and getting together was very, very big at that time. But now I just feel it's like I don't want a relationship. I'm just hooking up, and it's like. Fornication 101. It just you're still hungry, and you're not hungry for the sex. You're hungry for that sensual connection.
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't take the time to get to know each other and connect, how can you build that up?
Yeah, and I think too. I've looked quite a bit at the really younger generation, and I don't want to come off sounding like a granny, but for me. That type of personal intimacy is sacred.
Yeah.
It's not just something you do willy-nilly. And it has nothing to do with the Puritan ideas. It's not for that at all. It's because you will be giving of yourself. You will literally be exchanging energy. So you might want to consider exchanging energy with somebody that is going to take that energy from you and nurture it and care for it, not just like bim bam boom, here you go, and and that's the end.
Who are you?
Because it kind of it relates back to I don't know, like way back in the 70s, I had this one particular boyfriend that had the belief that if you took a picture of him, that some of his energy ends up in the picture. Well, it was so absurd. But now, as we move towards energy and
Mm-hmm.
healing and, Kirlian energy and all of these physics coming into it, etc., there's a small element of truth there.
Oh, a huge
So,
element of truth. I mean,
yeah, so you
we've
can't
stepped now
just,
into that quantum science. I think once they understood the quantum science, they,
yeah,
as in a discussion once with somebody who was a scientist of quantum physics and quantum energy, and he's saying that spirituality, everybody just thought was kumbaya, woo woo, giving yourself up to the universe. And they
yeah,
said now they actually understand it. You are actually living in the quantum energy. You're living at a certain frequency that allows you to be true to who you are, and living in pretty well an energy of goodwill. And they can measure it now, and they're beginning to understand what it is because the scientists
yeah,
have caught up, right? So all of these things are not becoming so far-fetched because it's always been here. We're just beginning to wake up to it, but we're actually understanding there is science behind it.
yeah, yeah. And science can be a bit of a tricky topic.
Mm-hmm.
My son is very much into physics, and he's studying physics, and he's a mature adult that went back to school. And so there's also a lot of pseudoscience out
Oh yeah.
there. So the real science, in a sense, it doesn't even matter for this conversation because the person that is in the relationship, if they just tune inside themselves,
Mm-hmm.
then they don't need proof of spirituality and they don't need proof of science.
Right.
Simply need to just listen to themselves.
Yeah.
And if they listen to themselves, if they're in, let's say, for example, they're in a relationship and then they go to bed at night themselves and they lay their head on the pillow and then they have this yearning or this loneliness or this sense of disconnection. And those are the true feelings that you need to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
Not all the fluff, not all the, he told me he loves me, or I want to be empowered and just say the words. Like you'll become empowered if you listen to yourself.
Right. Say those same words to yourself as you would wish someone to say to you, but say it
Yeah,
with meaning. And I think a lot of that, especially older generation, I'm sure we're around the same generation, is the permission to love yourself is what? Who do you think you are? Um, and for a lot of people, there is that permission that is needed. It's okay to love yourself. It's okay to put yourself first. It's
yeah,
okay to put that nurturing on you. In fact, it's imperative. But
yes.
for a lot of us, it was something that you just simply didn't do. It was everybody else, not you.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, look at the TV shows just from the 60s or so,
Hmm.
Father Knows Best. Your younger generation listeners are not going to even get that.
Right.
We had a lot of that type of
Hmm.
influence, like a lot of influence, all through the songs, the lyrics,
Yeah.
the behaviors. Um, my mother from the generation before never wore trousers. It
Hmm.
wasn't done. It just
Right.
wasn't done. And I didn't wear pants until I was in my teens, like late teens, when we'd come to the U.S. And so everybody wore pants and everything. So we've come so far.
Yes.
We really have come far. And the if the when I say younger generation, I'm talking about a 30-year-old woman.
Yeah.
I'm not talking just about a 16-year-old. But if they would just um, allow themselves to just listen to us that have been around the block.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that we know everything. I'm not saying we know more than they do, but I am saying that we will be the one that will bring you back to yourself because we no longer need that sort of affirmation. So we're
Yes.
willing to help you get yourself.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think also something that, we talk about a lot is that somewhere along the line, elders became a burden. Oh, when are you going to die? You waste a thing. And the respect of the knowledge of the elders, their contribution to the path that the youth now walk on, seemed to just kind of got thrown away, and very much to do with society that is all about the new and throw everything out. And, I think what we're seeing now is certain aspects of the younger generation turn to the older generation and share me your stories, tell me your journey. And I think if for anybody right now that is listening, that's in their 30s or below, please just take a moment and go back in history. Things like your cell phone that has now become your life, was not there before. Even the telephone was a luxury. Television, radio,
there was no such thing as a reality show.
Yeah. And, we have, in a space of 100 years, technologically, leaps and bounds, but humanity hasn't necessarily adjusted that well to it. They've latched onto it and they've used it, but then they've forgotten, the humanity and, the morals and the respect along the way. And it's like, those things wouldn't have happened had it not been for other people paving your path. So if we, as quote elders, are now telling you these are the journeys that we took to our own self-realization, to our own self-love, you don't have to take such a long journey. It doesn't have to be so hard for you. It's listen to our wisdom, forget our age, but listen to our wisdom and our knowledge and how we've done it, because now you're avoiding the potholes in the road. You don't have to go through them. Doesn't mean that other things aren't going to happen to you in life, but it does mean you're going to be better able to deal with them when they do come up.
Oh gosh, Sarah, you are speaking my language right now. I don't know how many times I say that. And it doesn't mean that every older person is wise.
Right. We have to earn that.
It does mean, and this is exactly what this book, Simply Women, is all about. It is about 30 women coming together to tell their stories to help. I'm the oldest one in those 30. Most of the women are not my age, so I'm affectionately known as Nana. But all of these women are older than the teenagers and the early 30s. So they all have this wisdom to share, and we really want the younger women to embrace it and look at their stories and see yourself in the story. And when you see yourself, learn from what that they had, like take the lessons that we learned. For heaven's sake, like, why do you have to go the hard way? Just take what we're giving you, and what we're saying on this show, and just take an easier path.
Benefit of the doubt here, right? It's, it's...
I think they're making the mistake of thinking that the speed of social media is the path. So, for example, I feel upset, I'll Google it. Right? And okay, there's nothing wrong with Googling it. It may be much more effective if you just turn to one of your elders or to anybody that you respect, or turn to a book or a podcast that has this type of wisdom for you, and learn from it that way.
Yeah. There's plenty of people that have gone the journey before. This is what Self-Discovery Radio is all about. People like yourself that have taken the journey. And, not only do we celebrate and support where you are now, but it's what you're now giving back. It's now that wisdom that you're sharing, that liberation, that freedom. And if we're wise enough to learn by listening, and then applying that knowledge, we will actually then get it, right? That's the whole thing. And this is the reason wise ones in the village were always respected, and why people went to them. Do you think the young warriors, I'm not going to listen to the wisdom of my elders? They relied on that wisdom to help them, as the elders would also look to the young ones for their opinion and their action that they could take. So Yes, it's very, very important that we learn from one another. And you talked about the social media and the speed of everything.
Yeah.
I think we're in a society where it's, well, hurry up, hurry up. You know, the old hurry up and meditate. You know,
Yeah.
it's slow
I've got to
down.
get to the end.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's not
I'm
about
guilty of
the
that
end.
sometimes.
It's
Yeah,
about
sometimes
the
I
journey.
fall into that trap. And I
Yeah,
think, oh my gosh, I just got to get this email
yeah,
done. Oh my gosh, I just got to get this done. I got to get this done. Got to get this done. And then I have to stop and just take a breath and
hmm,
say, like, chill, just chill. It's
yeah,
just gonna, you finish that chore, it's just gonna get, another one's gonna take its
you're
place.
right.
But for the younger generations that are watching your show, um, they still have options. They can be doing something and then just plug into your show and just listen. Don't have
Exactly.
to sit still for an hour
Right.
to watch. They can listen
Yeah,
while they're doing something else.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the point is be for a walk in nature, be on your bike, you
yeah,
know, doing the dishes, making dinner, in the
yeah,
bathtub, be careful of the electronics. You know, and that's the thing is that, yes, we know that you're multitaskers. You
yeah.
know, we ourselves as
We
parents,
are too. Yeah,
we knew exactly, juggling the baby, the dinner, the business, the husband, the everything all at once. We know what
yeah,
multitasking is about. But we also now know the benefit of take a
yeah,
breath. Take a breath. If it's not urgent, that it has to be done right at this very moment, then the next moment will do.
yeah. And you know what? They could actually use that analogy in their relationship.
Yeah,
Take a breath, look at yourself, look at what you're actually feeling in the relationship, not what you think you're feeling,
yeah,
not what you're projecting onto it, of how you want it to be. Just take off those glasses, those rose-colored glasses, and just take time with yourself, take a breath, and just say, am I getting what I need from this person?
yeah.
You know?
And also, am I giving
Mhm.
honesty? Am I giving what they expect? Or am I truly giving of myself authentically?
Yeah. And they can't be authentic unless they're doing that work.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Because
know,
it's
you,
very easy to get caught up in the old pattern. We have certain words that we've just used forever, we don't even know they're there anymore.
yeah,
And we've been taught to kind of speak negatively about ourselves. And we have to change that dialogue. And I
yeah,
think it's really cool to turn to your friends and say, look, if I use these words, correct me. Because it's only through somebody correcting you and pointing out how often that you use them that you can change your own dialogue, what you say
yeah,
to yourself. But we have to be willing to do our due diligence and do our work, because change doesn't happen because you've ordered it.
no. And you could use the analogy. It's like an addiction. If you're not aware that you have an addiction, then you can't
Yeah,
fix it. You can't do anything to deal with it. So if you're unaware of the connection to yourself, then you can't actually utilize it.
right.
So you need to become aware of this inner connection that you have, of this inner guidance, and of become aware of your own hopes and dreams and what you want in a relationship,
The
right?
biggest the biggest thing that we do to ourselves is lie to ourselves,
Yeah,
deny ourselves. And it's that, no, you're not a natural born liar. You're not going out there to deceive yourself, but you are. You're doing it unknowingly. You're living a lie if you haven't stepped into your truth, because that lie was part of your old DNA pattern, the way you were brought up, the expectations that you were told to meet, society's dictation of how you should be. The only way you're going to get loved is if you're skinny and you look like this and you do that. The only way you're going to get employed if you're this, and everything's telling you what you should be. But
yeah,
what we have to do is just pull the curtain on all of that and go, but who am I really?
yeah,
And who do I want to be?
yeah. Who do I want to be? Exactly. And all of us have work to do, because all of us of every generation has dealt with all of these environments that have told us to be one way or another. And I can speak for myself that you can carry that for decades You can
Mhm.
carry it around for decades, and it's you have your own understanding of God and the universe, but in my understanding, I'm just going to keep repeating and repeating and repeating until I get it. And
Yes.
then therefore, 30, 35, 40 years of bad relationships, and it took one that would actually gutted me to actually get me to finally say, okay, enough already.
And even though that now you're aware of it, it doesn't mean it's all going to be undone overnight. Again, there's this patterning that you're not even aware of, that you have to start being aware of.
Yeah.
This is where I think actually kind of writing blogs or writing things down, or even if you want to press your recorder on your phone and say something,
Yeah.
listen back, read back, you'll be so surprised of what you're actually saying. And that you go, oh, I didn't know I felt like that, or I saw things that way. I think a good conversation with your mirror is a good one as well. We've got to be willing to have that dialogue to actually understand, where are we coming from? What code have we been carrying around that doesn't fit us, that wasn't designed for us? And what do we really want to be? Who are we really? And how are we going to embrace that?
Yeah, there's an exercise that I teach in some of my workshops, and I still do it myself
Mm-hmm.
now. And the exercise is judgment, and judgment can get a bad rap. Judgment can be made out to be, oh my gosh, you're judging that person. You're a bad person for judging that person.
Right.
What I say about judgment is that judgment is healthy as long as you're not acting out that judgment, because you use it as a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm walking down the street, or if I'm with even somebody that I know, but let's say I'm walking down the street and I see somebody and I think, oh, look at what she's doing. Like, how can she be doing that in my mind? Then as long as I don't act on it by going over to her and saying, like, how can you be treating your child
Right. Yeah.
that way? Or how can you be eating 12 donuts? As long as I don't act on it, then I can take that. And then as soon as I've got a moment, I sit down with it and say, where do I hold this judgment in
Mm-hmm.
myself?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about bringing it back in particular, like say this woman was eating 6 donuts, and then you bring back and say, well, I don't eat 6 donuts. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the judgment you had about
Yes.
her behavior, the emotion you felt about that behavior. She's eating 6 donuts. She must be, greedy. So then you would bring back the emotion of that. Well,
Mm-hmm.
where do I see in myself that I might be feeling greedy? Or if you judge that person to be desperate, where is it that I'm
Yeah.
feeling in myself that I feel that desperateness?
Right.
And for me, that is a real quick way to get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a real fast way to get there. And then, as you mentioned, the younger generation, I use it too. I just grab the phone and just dictate a note,
Yes.
you know,
I
and
do a
let
show
that,
every week.
yeah, or do a show every week.
I do Sarah's View of Life, which is, I just pick a topic, and sometimes it's a one-liner, and then I just do the show and then write the blog, or write the blog and then do the show, and it's just my perspective. But um, it's actually great therapy, guys.
Yeah,
Just pour things out, and because I think one of the problems with an inner dialogue, it is always being kind of judgmental and well, what makes you think this, blah blah blah. But when you pour everything out and then it reflects back at you, when you
yeah,
revisit and it reflects back at you, I think there's a lot of understanding there then of acknowledgement of what you see, that you now can address, right? Because that's
yeah,
one of the things. Be willing to address it. Oh gosh, why did I write that? I didn't know I
yeah,
felt that way. And I think that's really important, to acknowledge why we feel that way, why we being
yeah.
so judgmental. And I find myself still doing it. I look at certain people, and I'm aware of it. It's still something I'm having to work on, and go, how can she trust that love? Or is she worthy of that love? And I know that's still an issue I carry around with me. It doesn't matter how much you intellectualize it, right?
Yes.
It's still that feeling that stem is in there, and you think you've got rid of it, and then up it comes again. Don't push it back down.
Yeah.
Acknowledge it.
because we're not going to outgrow everything. We're
No.
human beings. We're going to be growing until the day we die.
Hmm.
It's just, we're not going to stop growing. And when you're looking at the judgment, so if I go back to that example really quickly, and because I've had clients do this with me, and they say, well, I looked at her and, eating those donuts, and I thought she was just being lazy and not creating a good meal, but I'm not like that. I cook well, I eat well, etc. For me, what they're doing then is that they haven't tapped into what they felt, what they
Yeah.
actually felt about that person. So then I will ask them to go back and say, well, what did you actually really feel when you saw her eating too many donuts because she happened to be carrying extra weight, and now you're watching her? And then if they just peel back the onion, because if they first look at it and they say, yeah, but I don't feel that way, then you're blocking
Yeah.
your own awareness to allow yourself to become aware that you even have this thing residing inside of you.
Yeah. Unravel yourself, right? That self-discovery of unravel yourself. And don't be judgmental of what you find either, because, that somewhere along the line that's being, condition or a pattern that you've been given. But the thing is, I think when you step into that awareness of actually being aware that, oh gosh, I didn't know I thought things that way, or saw things that way, or felt things that way, you now have the empowerment to do something about it. And I think the lack of power is when we just simply don't know how to peel those onions back, how to address what's really worrying us, and then how to remove it. And it's not, you don't just press delete. We can press delete on the feeling to do with it, but that's not going to change what happened.
Yeah.
Right? You know what happened, and that always comes into awareness that you don't want to make that happen again. But you can press the feeling attached around it, so you're not carrying that pain with you any further.
Yeah, and I feel that you can move through things a lot quicker. Like you or I may have taken a very long time to get where we are. And so now we're trying to show the younger women that
how to speed it up.
Yeah, you can go at Mach 10. And so you don't need to go through the long length, but you do need to do the work. There's no way around doing the work.
Right.
Because if you're not willing to do the work, then you're not honoring yourself. You're not allowing yourself the honor and respect to do the work.
You're also not taking the accountability. We have a choice, and if you choose not to do anything and you're still miserable, well, that was your choice. You have to own it. If you are discontent with your life, then the choice is to explore the options that are going to make you feel better. But you have to be proactive in your own life, and if you're unwilling to do that, there's nobody coming along, fairy godmother with a magic wand going biddy-doo, as much as we would like it.
Yeah, I'd like that. Let me know.
Yeah. She hasn't
you
come
have to
yet.
be willing to do the work, and you have to be willing to go down to that dark place.
Yes. Yes.
There's like a million ways to get there. But I don't think it's not as bad as it feels at the time. I remember one time about 25 years ago, I was in this place and I literally thought that the emotion I was feeling was going to kill me. I literally thought it was going to kill me if I let myself go to that dark place. And it didn't. It didn't.
Right. Every time I'm
because our mind creates this huge drama. And that's not to say that we don't have drama, and it's certainly not to say that we don't have horrible experiences in our life, and those need to be acknowledged. But getting to that place where you can embrace and acknowledge them is what I'm talking about.
Right.
That's where we create a huge amount of drama. There's now, especially with the Me Too movement, and especially with podcasts like yourself, there's lots of places and books. There's lots of places and lots of access for the person that is willing to do the work.
Right. And when you look back and you go, that was my darkest hour. I didn't think I could get through that, but look, I did. And look how much stronger I am. And look at how far and what tools I have in order to face life now.
Yeah.
you suddenly go realize, well, if I could do it then, I can do it now. I can apply the same thing to my life now. And
Yeah.
we're all going to have dipped moments, right? And they're there for a reason. Acknowledge them, love yourself, nurture yourself, so that you can come back out again.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that we're going to fix everything and live happily ever
No.
after. We're going to have those bumps in the
Yes.
road. We're going to have pitfalls. But uh, exactly what you just said. You'll learn your own
Mm.
tools. Like the tool that you might use may not work for me. The tools that I might use may not work for you. And that's why we're both saying, to your audience, go deep within yourself and you
Yes.
will find the tools that work for you,
What
the ones
resonates with
going
you?
to help you, whether it's writing or whether it's
Mm.
expressive art or whether it's movement
Yes.
or yoga or dance or however it is that is going to get you to that place where you can acknowledge those dark spaces,
Hmm.
and invite them into the light. They'll come
Precisely.
kicking and screaming, but once they get there, then it won't be black. It'll
It's not
turn
as bright as I thought it was. Yeah.
good.
And I think that's also something, if there's somebody who's lived in the darkness for a while, when you're coming out into the light, it's very blinding. And
Yes.
it's just like if you want to take a picture with the sun in your eyes, you close your eyes and look at the sun, and then just before the camera goes click, you open, right?
Yeah.
And it's a little bit like that, and then you'll adjust. Your eyesight will adjust.
Yeah.
You will adjust to your new environment. But the
Yeah.
more that you invest in yourself, the more you nurture yourself, the more you believe in yourself, the more you are at home with yourself, the
Yeah.
less lonely, the more love that and respect you have for you, the more you resonate that peace and contentment of yourself, and the more invitational you become with matching that vibration with someone else. So,
Yeah.
that's the journey is there.
That's beautifully said. And the part that touched for me was that the more you become at home with yourself.
Mm,
So, home. My son wrote a poem in his teens, and he took that famous poem, "Home is where the heart is,"
mm-hmm.
and he just shifted it around a bit, and he said, "No, home is where love is, and if you
Mm.
love yourself, home is right where you stand."
Yes,
And that's
beautiful.
exactly what you and I are talking
Yeah.
about. You
Being at
find that,
home with self. Yes.
yeah, find that home
Yeah.
within yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
then you'll be comfortable to go back and visit and visit and visit as many times as you need to because
Right.
it's home.
And also welcome other people into your home,
Yeah,
right? Because you know who you are at home, and you're going to invite people into your home front that will be respectful because you're resonating on that same vibration,
yeah, yeah,
right? And then
yeah,
your home becomes an expansion, which is really beautiful.
yeah,
So it's come and join the waters. It's really great, right? We got
yeah,
rid of the sharks.
yeah. And when the sharks come, you know how to avoid them.
Tap them on the nose.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
And I think that's another big one, and of course another topic for another time. But fear, half the time people don't move forward, don't even get up off the backsides, is fear. And
Yeah,
there isn't any single one of us that hasn't gone through fear, that
yeah,
hasn't been terrified at some point. But boy, do we feel good for facing our fears. Don't we feel
yeah.
strong and courageous for doing so?
Yeah, yeah, and for me, some of it depends on what I'm qualifying as fear. So, for example, I have the fear of jumping out of an airplane with a parachute. That's something I not only fear, but I would never do,
Right,
and I never need to.
right.
So that's that type of fear. So then once you qualify within yourself the fears that you do want to move through and the fears that, okay, I'm afraid of a tiger, so and I need to remain afraid of a tiger because I'm supposed to be afraid of a tiger.
Yeah.
So those types of fears. So for me, I spent a long time qualifying my fears and categorizing them. And then it was sort of like, okay, I don't need to be this fearless person. My sister is a fearless person on a vacation. She will bungee jump. She will, what's that called? Zip line.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I won't do those things. So I have a fear of those things, but it's fine.
Yes.
I don't need to become fearless,
Right. Yeah.
you
Your
know.
fearlessness is in how you face your own everyday life. It's not those extra things. Where suddenly, as you said, you're going to be zip lining or bungee jumping. No, I wouldn't do those either. But I have actually been incredibly fearless on some of the things that I've done in my life. And at the time, it wasn't about, oh, I'm fearless and I'm going to do this. But I look back and go, that took courage for me to do that. And I just went ahead and did it. And it's give yourself kudos along the way, right?
Yeah, yeah, and recognizing those was a big one. Was a big
Hmm.
one for me. There's still things in my life that I did that, the women in this book are sort of supporting me on and saying, "Oh my gosh, you did that,"
Yeah.
and I was very flippant about it.
Yes.
It's like, well, yeah, of course I did, and so that's what I'm learning about coming into the divine feminine, you can
Mm.
call it, or coming into that Me Too movement. As you said at the beginning of the show, it's not about man bashing and it's not
Right.
about being better than men. It's just coming into your own divine feminine and
Yeah.
to embrace that and to allow yourself to be strong, because the divine feminine is strong.
Right.
It's the Joan of Arc, and it's also the it's also Mother Teresa.
Mm.
It's all of those women that just followed what they felt they needed to follow, and they took it all the way to the end, without regard of what other people were thinking.
Right.
And you can do that and still be very feminine. To me, that's
Right.
what I'm learning that femininity is all about. I've been working on masculine energy for years, raising the children by myself. And, so I had to be the breadwinner and I had to be everything. And so then I drew on all of my masculine energy for that unknowingly. And so then I had a struggle getting in touch with my feminine energy. And it's only of late that I'm able to be in touch with that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's the empowerment. Sorry,
Yeah.
there's fluff flying around here. That's the
Right.
empowerment.
And that empowerment of discovery of self,
Yeah,
of who we are, that love of self, the reason for being, our meaningful purpose, and
yeah,
knowing that we have overcome, knowing that we're now an inspiration for others because
yeah,
of the journey that we've taken is very, very empowering. And the more that we empower ourselves and set that vibration, that resonance of who we are and why we are, the more men will actually
yeah,
be able to embrace that, because one of the biggest problems is they don't know what women want, because we didn't know what we want because we're so busy trying to please the men.
yeah,
So by standing tall in who you are and why you are and what you are and your purpose is now giving that man a really strong image of who you are and what you are and how to approach you.
yeah, yeah. And it also gives him the groundwork
Yes.
to be able to uh,
Match it.
yeah, and to be the man that you want him to
Right.
be, because now you're the woman that you want to be.
Yeah.
And if he's attracted to that woman who you really are, then he will then be allowed to be the man for that person that you are.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Beautiful way to close that off, right?
yeah,
It's we all want to be loved and we all want to love, but
yeah,
first and foremost, it's of self that we need to know that love in order to invite that love that we want
yeah.
from another. And it's a beautiful journey. It's a hard journey, but at the same time, it can be an easy journey. It just depends what we decide to feed.
Yeah, because we've laid the path for
Yeah.
you. Yeah, we've laid the path for you. We've made all the mistakes.
Yes.
Speaking of myself, I've made all the mistakes.
Me too.
So go ahead and take all of what
Yeah.
we before you have laid out for you, and then pick and choose what works. And you don't have to take so long. You don't have to have all the heartaches that I myself has had, speaking for myself.
So I know that the Simply Woman is not yet on Amazon, but it's going to be coming out soon, right?
Yes, it'll come out shortly. Crystal Andrus Morissette of the SWAT Institute is our fearless leader. She's an amazing woman. I've not met another woman that understands true leadership as Crystal. You could either go to her website, swatinstitute.com, or you can send me an email and I will make sure to get you in touch once it goes on Amazon. And then you can probably get the digital version. I have the book, but I'm in Ontario, so it would have to be shipped, and that's probably not convenient for you. So you could also be in touch with Sarah, and I'm sure Sarah will be able to forward to me whatever's comfortable for you.
Right.
Definitely get the book. And in the interim, they could go to the simplywomansummit.com, www.simplywomansummit.com, and each one of us has been interviewed, and each one of us is giving a free gift download. And there's women from all over the world that contributed to this book, and they weren't all about relationships. Some of them were about orphanages, some were about siblings that were, taken and killed, actually. And so there's a lot of women to learn from, exactly what you and I have been talking about here. There's a lot of women to learn from, and it's a free webinar. Your listeners can sign up, and they will get, each woman that wrote a chapter, they will get to watch and download their free gift, and Crystal's giving free gifts as well.
Wonderful.
It's an amazing opportunity for any younger woman that wants to learn more about herself.
And of course, you have a book too, Walking Out of the Fire? Yes,
my book was printed, a long time ago in 2006. I wrote it in 2000. My book, I have no idea if it's available in digital, so if you just email me, I can make arrangements to send you my book, Walking Out of the Fire. Walking Out of the Fire was ahead of its time. I wrote all about the abuse and how I got out of it, and what I learned and what I did to learn and to grow, and what we're talking about here today. But 2006 was a different time than
yes.
2018. So now it's fitting in, and I'm learning that timing is everything. So now it's fitting in, and now it's a story whose time has come. That book is available as well if you want to just email me or pop onto my website.
Okay, so now the website is, and your email is, please, love.
Yeah, so my email is info@internetwisdom.com. So it's info@internetwisdom.com. That was my play on words, because my company is Inner Wisdom. And my website is internetwisdom.com, INNERNET wisdom.com. If it's easier for you, if you're trying to write this down, just go to pamdelfranco.com and it automatically forwards you. That's my fancy technology.
So that's innernetwisdom.com, pamdelfranco.com, and simplywomen.com.
Simply Woman Summit, SUMMIT.com. That's where they get all their freebies.
Wonderful. And this is what it's about, folks. People who have taken the journey before you, their wisdom, that inspiration, it's an invitation, and it's also helping you on your journey of life by putting all this wonderful knowledge in your backpack. And you're not walking alone. You've got to do the walking. It's your journey, but you're not walking alone. You've got cheerleaders, you've got supporters, you've got advocates, you've got tools and wisdom along the way. And this is the beauty of it, by the summits and the shows like this and books like this, is that the answers are all around you. You've just got to be willing to reach out and apply, and that's the thing. We're here for you.
And ask for what you need.
Yes.
And it's the same in a relationship. Ask for what you need. you can't expect your partner to read your mind. Ask for what you need.
And know what you need first
way.
before you ask for it, right? Know what you need. Ask it of yourself first before you ask it from a partner.
Yes, amen. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being with us here today, Pam.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Sarah. Thank you.
A great journey, and it doesn't matter whether we're talking to the young or the older. Every single one of us has come to that crossroads in life where it is seeking love and all the wrong places and the wrong people, and the only reason they're wrong is because of the way that we're seeking the love. When it comes from the love of self, we are now seeking it in the right vibration. But that journey to understanding that we have to go through all the wrong ones before we get the light bulb moment, right?
Yeah. I do love the way that you put things. It puts it all in a nutshell. Exactly. Yeah.
Bottom line, it's a wonderful place when you step into your own self-love. It's a beautiful, peaceful place. It's a place of knowingness, and it's a place of your own authenticity.
Yeah, and calmness.
And calmness, yes, yes. And then that's what you resonate at. That's what invites other people to you. Is that of you. So be you, own you, celebrate you, resonate in you, and you will attract the people around you that celebrate and honor that.
Lovely. Beautifully said, Sarah. Beautifully said. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Pam. And
it's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on your show.
A delight. And please reach out to her. Let her see her program, read her books, just even a simple chat, right? And set her on the path, because that's what you're there for.
My website is a free download as well, for a free ebook, and it's called Break Free, and it's how to break free from a bad relationship when you're still in love with him.
Right. Oh, I can see that one's going to be downloaded a lot. Who hasn't been there, right?
Yeah.
Breaking free from a relationship you're already and still in. Very, very important. It's breaking those ties. Once you have, it's a little bumpy, but then boy, suddenly you're in charge of your own vehicle. Wow.
And don't you find in your experience, Sarah, that once you go beyond that fear and once you do the work and walk the walk, don't you kind of look back and say, what took me so long?
Oh,
if we would have had the mentors that we are now.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I wish, I wish we were around back then. And you just realize
there was one of me when I was 17, 18 or 20.
Yes, exactly. I would have done it all differently for sure. But that's why this wisdom is important to you now. Save you years of your life so you can get on doing what you need to do, what you want to do, and who you really are. And that's the greatest gift that you can actually give to your global community, is you being who you really are.
And to your partner.
Yes. Absolutely. And all relationships in your life. It's not just a love partner. This is all your relationships in your life. Yeah. So much to be gained. Okay. Well, thank you, Pam.
Thank you so much.
A lot more to be learned from you. And so please.
Yes, I'd love to be on your show again at some point.
Yes, have to have you back again. So, folks, you've learned a lot. Please apply it. Just step out and start doing some of the processes of being honest with yourself. Where is that judgment? What is it reflecting inside? Read the books and download that free ebook. I'm guaranteed it's going to be one of your first steps. And just simply to start taking the journey. You are worth it, and we care about you. Until next time, folks, bye for now. For more wonderful shows like this, please go to selfdiscoveryradio.com, podcasts, and see our lineup. And if you wish to support us, we have a funded button. Please stay tuned for our next show.